Hey everyone, welcome to The Project. My name is Josh, and I'm here to let you know what to expect over the next hour. In the next few minutes, our band is going to come up and play a couple songs. It's not a concert, but something that we call worship. The songs we chose talk about who God is and what He's done for us. So singing to Him is a way that we can worship Him. So engage in however you like. Sit, stand, sing along, put your hands up, or maybe for you it's just to listen to the lyrics and reflect on them. Nobody is here to judge you, so relax and enjoy the time. Every week we go through the Bible, and tonight, Pastor Jeff, our lead pastor, will share a message based on its truths and how it applies to our lives today. Afterwards, we'd love to get to know you and hang out. So make sure to visit the info booth in the lobby, get connected, and answer any questions you might have. Thanks again for joining us. We are so excited you're here. We invite you to stand as our band begins to play.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Project. Why don't you stand and worship with us? I was wondering why I fell in love with the Jesus. I've been up and down and all over the place, wasting all my days and nights, never feeling satisfied. Putting on a smile, I was keeping it fit. But there's no imitating what I found in your grace. All the things I left behind are shadows, now I see the light. In my head, in my soul, in my heart, my all. Oh, I know that I know, no, no, no. Never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing can change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. I've got a million reasons why I can't be the same. You've got me looking forward, never turning my gaze. Forever, God, it's you and I, together till the end of time. In my head, in my soul, in my heart, my all. Oh, I know that I know, no, no, no. Never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you, and nothing will change it. All I can say is, oh, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Oh, your love is patient, love is kind. Your love is never hard to find. Forever I am yours and you are mine. Alright, alright, oh. Never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you, and nothing can change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Oh, never have I ever known, never have I ever known. Never have I ever known.
You are with me. What can separate us? You are for me. What can stand against us? Your love, it won't let go. I know it won't. Darkness and shadows have no power over me. Fear is empty. Shame has no authority. And I know you hold my future in thy hope. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail. Your promises never fail.
Hey, you guys can take a seat now. I'm Catherine, and welcome to... I just said I'm Catherine. Welcome to the project again. I got confused there, guys. I'm Jackson. This is Catherine. We're so glad you're here today. Just sit with me, and we're going to listen to a few announcements before we start with the message.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Amanda.
And I'm John.
If you are, this is your first time here, that's awesome. If you're watching online, or maybe even coming for a while, guys, we're so glad that you want to be here on a Sunday night. So, a couple things to make you aware of. First of all, like I said, if you are new or not, if you have questions about small groups, if you have questions about joining a serve team, which you should, because it's actually fun, anything like that, then you want to head to our Connect booth out there across in the lobby. Hai will be there after the service, and she'd love to meet you. So head there after the service if that's you.
Yeah, so as most of you guys know, here at the project, our vision is to reach 1% of young adults in Edmonton to have them make their decision to follow Christ and call the project their home. And that's why in January, we're actually opening a new campus in Kingsway. So tonight is a pretty awesome night because this is our first Kingsway interest meeting right after the service in room 1030.
Like that way,
Like
right there.
that way-ish, that direction.
If you get lost, it's a circle. Just keep walking.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
So it's actually a chance to ask questions, a chance to meet other people who are thinking about it, maybe even making the decision themselves. So no pressure or anything. You guys can invite your friends as well, but it's not actually a complete commitment if you come. It's just to ask questions, learn about it, and maybe see if you're interested to join.
Yeah, so something you're going to hear us say a lot around here is that obviously we're church, but we also firmly believe that following Jesus, one of the best decisions that you can make with your life. And it's because of that we do baptisms around here. So if you are someone that you do follow Jesus with your life and you call yourself a Christian, but you haven't gotten baptized yet, that's your next step. And so we have baptism classes because I meet a lot of people who actually get really hesitant, or they think, I'm a Christian, but I'm not ready yet, I'm not there. And there's a lot of misconceptions around baptism and what it means and the why. And so that's why we have classes. And so coming up on this Wednesday, August 25th, over Zoom in the evening, we're going to have a baptism class. You can hop in. Again, we'll talk about it, answer your questions, or there's another class happening next Sunday here in person after the project service that you can also attend. So again, coming to a class doesn't mean that you were like committing to get baptized, but it's a good chance to come and be like, okay, what does it mean? What is my next step? Things like that. So mark your calendar for this Wednesday online or next Sunday after the service.
And so as you guys know, every Sunday night we're here at the project, but we don't want it just to be a service. We actually want it to be a fun experience afterwards. So after the service, we were going to do fire pits and s'mores. Unfortunately, it is really crappy outside and kind of raining, so we decided to splurge and get pizza instead. So right after the service, in the cafe, we're going to have pizza if you guys can just line up there, and we will also have board games in the cafe as well. So we'd love you guys to hang out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good. It is like we didn't know how many to order, to be honest. So it's
a
first
good
come.
number.
Yeah, we
Solid
got a lot
number,
of
yeah.
boxes coming, but first come, first serve. So line up in the cafe. We gotta like make sure that it all stays healthy and everything for everyone. No, the pizza's not healthy, but sanitary wise, we gotta follow that. So head there after the service. But before then, Jeff is gonna be continuing our series. But first, check out this video.
in 1963, there was a guy named Tony Chapman. And he was in a band, and they were okay. They were kind of like touring around, nothing overly successful. But you have to understand this about Tony Chapman. Tony Chapman was a purist of blues music. Like, he loved blues music. And his band started to take, in his mind, some serious liberties with blues music. And in his words, the term he used was, his band was a little too ruckus for blues music. It's kind of like a very 50s, 60s terminology to use. And he decided to quit the band because there's no way that anyone who has any self-respect or any love for music would really care about what these guys are putting out there, this raucous, over-the-top, unpure blues music. Shortly after he quit in around 1964, his band took off and became one of the most famous bands of all time. You might have heard of them. Their name is the Rolling Stones. He missed out on fame, fortune, and untold success because he quit a little too early. And maybe he's okay with that. Maybe they were like playing stadiums of 70,000 people, and he's looking there like, nope, that's not blues music. But I don't think so. I think he was probably like, man, if I would have just hung on a little longer, that could have been me standing behind Mick Jagger in front of massive stadiums for the next 60, 70 years, right? The next person I want to talk to you about is a guy named Adam Curry, and you may have heard of him, you may not have. He was a popular like MTV employee, like on TV personality in like the early 90s, back when MTV still played music and had anything to do with music videos. Now it seems to not at all. Anyways, he's actually more successful in the term that he was one of the first people to kind of create the modern day podcast. But the story I want to tell you about him is in a recent interview, he was talking about how in around 2012 or so, maybe a little before that, he was gifted as part of this by someone who was starting off podcasts with Apple Podcasts, 50 Bitcoin. And it was only worth a couple of bucks at that time. It was kind of this weird underground drug dealer-esque, like no one really knew what it was, or it just seemed to be mostly used for this underground black market payments. Now, it got up to about $1,000 a few years ago, and the quote he used was, man, this is the best scam ever. I'm cashing out. He made $50,000 once it went to $1,000. He's like, I got to get out before this goes bad. Now, if he would have waited a little longer, today one Bitcoin is worth around $50,000 US, and he missed out on millions of dollars. So, we could all use 50 grand, right? That's like your student loan payments, unless you're in med school, in which case, I'm sorry, or law school, and you have to do more. But the average student loan or college degree, you could probably cover that. He missed out on that. If he would have just waited a little longer, he could have made it and had that luck and those finances. My favorite story is actually this. It's a lady named Ali Ferdowski. Probably said that wrong. Sorry, Ali. She was a sales rep for Facebook in 2009. Now you need to remember, in 2009, Facebook wasn't what it is today. It was still pretty big, but it wasn't quite as massive as it is now in 2021. And she had this good job, and she got offered. She's a pretty lady and articulate, and they invited her to be on the show The Bachelor, a contestant. So she took her vacation time. That's a bit of an odd vacation in my opinion, but she went on the show The Bachelor, and they really liked her. So they were like, hey, listen, Allie, we'd like to have you back. We'd like you to be the main character on a season of The Bachelorette. So Allie was faced with this situation where she was like, man, I'm out of vacation time. I can't ask for more vacation time to be on another episode. And she had to make a decision. And she decided, I'm going to quit. ABC is going to pay me big money. Maybe this is my opportunity to get noticed, fame, fortune, movie career. And she went on to have this one-year run on a TV show, a reality TV show. Unfortunately, it was shortly after, in March of 2010, after her departure, that Facebook put out an IPO that shared revenue, and basically every person in her position went on to become multimillionaires. Tough luck, Allie. You should have stayed a little longer. It's the theme that we're seeing in these stories is that if these people would have stuck a little longer, if they wouldn't have given up on what they were doing, they wouldn't have missed out on the success, the fortune, the fame, whatever you want to call it. They missed out because they just jumped off the train a little bit before it got to the destination. I want to tell you a stat. And you might hear this and be like, man, this isn't really what you think a pastor or a church would talk about, because it's kind of coming face to face with the reality of something negative that we're facing right now. But I think we need to be honest as a church, as the project community, and when there's things that are happening to young adults in general, we need to be able to face those head on so that we can overcome the challenges that are there. And this is the stat I want to share with you. Over 60% of young adults who followed Jesus in their teen years or kind of became a Jesus follower in those younger years will fall away and give up their faith between the ages of 18 to 22. And as they get closer to 30, we see an exponential tumbling of those numbers. As you get through your 20s, there are more and more young adults that are no longer following Jesus. And that may sound like a shock to you, or maybe you're looking at your friend group, you're looking at your own life, and you're like, man, that actually kind of makes sense. As people go to college, as people are challenged in their faith, there are more and more people who seem to not be able to hold on to their faith. And this is caused probably by a lot of different things, right? Like, there's a lot of distrust for organizational leadership just in general. Organized religion, for sure, but even just look at politics. Trump, Biden, Afghanistan, whatever, the insurrection, Trudeau, politics, the world leaders, scandals, and all sorts of, Google, just leadership failure, leadership corruption, and we've all seen it. It's created this deep callous towards all organized leadership, all organized institutions, and definitely towards organized religion and church. And I've been there, I've seen it, I've been upset by it, and so I can totally understand why people are feeling that in some level. But as a society, there's this callous cynicism specifically towards faith and faith-based institutions like churches and pastors and stuff like that. And it's growing. And there's this trend of something that is called the ex-evangelical movement, which is people who are just kind of abandoning their faith and through a term or a process that's been coined as deconstructing your faith. Kind of looking at what I always believed or what I was told to believe at my youth group or in my family or whatever it is, and starting to like, is that really what I believe? Like, well, actually, I don't like this, or I don't like this, and this doesn't fit with what I like now, and I would prefer if this wasn't there. So let's deconstruct this thing, and this is what I believe now. And often it ends with people moving to a fully agnostic or just atheistic perspective in general. And we're seeing that in these stats, snowballing continually over and over and over again. So this week, we're continuing our series called That's What He Said, and it's going through all these different parables that Jesus went through. And if you're here for the first time, you don't know what a parable is. It's not a common term that we use in society now, but a parable is a fictional story that Jesus told that has a metaphorical truth and absolute truth to our lives. It's these stories that anybody from any background, any culture in the world can look at and can learn something that will benefit their life in general, but will also help them to align the way they live and align their heart and their actions more and more with Jesus and who He is and how He wants us to live. So today we're going to look at another one. Today we're going to look into the book of Matthew. So Matthew is in the second half of the Bible. It's the New Testament. So the New Testament starts about halfway through, and it's when Jesus is born. Everything before that is the Old Testament. Matthew was one of Jesus' disciples. He would have had a first-hand account of who Jesus was. This is his word. This is Jesus' life through his eyes. He saw these literal things happen right in front of him, and he's describing these and writing them down. So this parable starts in Matthew chapter 13, and we're going to look at verses 1 through 9, and here they are. And if you want to follow along, if you have a Bible here, or if you want to follow in a Bible app, that's cool. If not, it's going to be up on the screen, and you can follow along at home online or here on the screens. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. A large crowd soon gathered around him, and he got into a boat. Then he sat there and taught as the people stood on the shore. He told many stories in the form of parables, such as this one. Listen. A farmer went out to plant some seeds, and he scattered them across his field. Some seeds fell on a footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rock. The seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow. But the plants soon wilted under the hot sun, and since they didn't have deep roots, they died. Other seeds fell among the thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. Still other seeds fell on fertile soil, and they produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as had been planted. Anyone with ears to hear should listen and understand. So at first this could be confusing, right? Like if we're just looking at this at face value, like what is Jesus talking about here? He's kind of just going off about gardening again. And if you were here 2 weeks ago, and if you missed any part of the series, you can go to our podcast app or on YouTube and catch up. But 2 weeks ago, I was talking about another parable called the parable of the mustard seed. Talking about how our faith is like this mustard seed, which at the time when this was written was the smallest known seed in the world at that time. And it is basically microscopic, but it grows into this tree that's absolutely massive. And that's a representation of our faith. Well, here we are again. And Jesus is talking about seeds being spread all over the place in different types of soil. And it'd be easy to just be like, okay, well, clearly Jesus is a big fan of gardening. I don't think that was the point. When you look at who he was talking to at that time, Jesus is talking to basically the working class, and they would have had a good understanding of agriculture, or at least basic farming. And so he's speaking in a context in a way that they would be able to understand. So that's where we're going with all this gardening stuff. But there's so much more than just gardening tips here. There's something here that captures really the conflict that exists within us living today here in Canada, in Edmonton, in Alberta, in 2021. And it's so much more than a parable about gardening. It's about our human condition. It's about the struggle that we have in our faith, the conflict that exists with contrasting a Jesus-based life and this current day postmodern, secularism, humanism world that we live in, post-truth, where nothing is true and that nothing can tell you what is actually true. It's a wrestling match between our faith and our circumstances, the war in our hearts and minds between God and our will. This is about us. And it is about literally every single one of us. We may just fall under different parts of this story. So let's break this down. The farmer in this story is God. The one spreading the seed is God. That's pretty basic. And the seeds that are being spread are the gospel. Now, maybe you're here first time or you haven't fully explored this before, but the gospel, what is the gospel? What is the farmer? What is God spreading? And this is really what it comes down to. It's an incredibly complex concept, but it's a simple truth. It's the fact that we all have contributed to the chaos and to the brokenness of the world through our actions, through the sin that we've made, our lies, our cheating, whatever it is. We have all, literally every person in this room, in this world, myself included, have contributed to the chaos and the mistakes and the corruption of the world by our sinful actions and really what is a rebellion against the standard that God has, which is perfection. And because we've all done that, we can't exist with God because he is the absolute opposite of sin. We have no business being connected to him, and because of that separation, because of that rebellion that we've made, we have to be separate from him for eternity. That's the standard. We can't be with God. But God loved us so much that he sent Jesus, who is God himself in human form, to come and live a life that was perfect, to not need to die, to not have that sin in his life, and actually choose to die even though he wasn't required. To fill that gap, and that's what the cross is, right? The cross is this, it's not just a symbol, it was a torture device that Jesus was murdered on, and that even though he didn't have to, even though he could have chosen to get off of it, he chose to do that solely because he loves us enough to take that cost of death, that death that we all deserve through our rebellion. That is what Jesus did on the cross. And 3 days later, he rose and defeated death, showed that he has power over death, he has power over sin, and there's nothing he can't do, and there's nothing that he can't control because he is God. That's a very, very broad summary of a very complicated but unbelievably important thing in our lives. That's the gospel. That's what this farmer is spreading. He's sharing the gospel. He's throwing it out. He's not just flippantly, but in this story, that's what that's what God is doing. And so let's take a bit of a closer look at this. The first type of soil that this parable talks about is this footpath. And it talks about the birds that come and that eat the seeds before they can even begin to germinate or to take seed or to take root. And these seeds are gone before they can even do anything. Now, what does that represent? What that represents is this. It's the idea that there will be people who will hear the gospel, but they go into it and they will never even allow it to really enter into their minds past their ears. When people decide that I want nothing to do with God, and maybe this has been you before, and I know I've done this with things that are not just with the gospel, but you believe there's an ideology or there's something or a political perspective that is so opposite of what you believe that as soon as you hear someone talking about something that's contrary to what you already think, it's like, la, 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 nope, not listening to this, I'm not interested, that's garbage, that's insane, I'm not even going to hear this because that's so stupid. There are people like that. And I'm sure that we know them. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's your first time in church and you're like, I'm not interested. It's a miracle I'm here. I can't believe I'm in church. I can't believe I'm watching online or listening on the podcast. But that is who we're talking about in this first little bit. Now, the second one is this. It's the hard soil. And what the hard soil represents, and this talks about a soil that's not just hard, but it's not that it won't let anything in, but it's shallow. And these plants begin to take root, but it's super shallow and not deep. And it isn't very long before the sun comes out and it begins to wilt. And it's too much for those weak plants, those plants that are in shallow, hard soil to actually withstand any of the elements of nature that are going to come. And they soon wilt, they die, and they don't survive. So who is that? What is that? Is that potentially us? Well, let's look at it. It's talking about people that never fully gain a depth of relationship with Jesus. People who look at the life that they've been living and look at the Bible and look at Jesus and they're like, yeah, this is good, I like it. Maybe it was in a youth group, maybe it was when they were younger, maybe it was even recently. It was just like, I like the idea of Jesus' love. I like the idea of what God is and that there's someone who loves me, and yeah, the cross is great because Jesus died for me. That's a good, cool, loving thing. But those people have never wrestled with the cost of following Jesus. That as your heart is changed, your behavior has to change too. That there is a cost of following Jesus and denying yourself at times and having the discipline to actually follow the example of Jesus and not just do whatever we want to do. Not because Jesus doesn't want us to have fun, but because Jesus knows what is best for us holistically in our mind, our body, and our soul. And then when the challenges of the world come, and I don't like using that terminology of like the world isn't evil, like we're not against the world, but when the challenges of life and the pressures of peer pressure or politics or just different things that happen in our lives come, we don't have the depth to stand up against the elements that are the challenges in our lives. We love Jesus, we love the idea, we love the freedom, we love all these different things that come with following Jesus until we get that terrifying diagnosis of a family member, until that tragedy hits, until something happens that isn't as happy-go-lucky as we thought that relationship with Jesus was. We don't have the depth in our knowledge of who God is and what that means for us in our day-to-day lives to be able to withstand the treachery that is the elements of life that blatantly suck, because they will come. Just like the sun beats down on these plants, there will be things in your life that are not fun, that are hard, that are terrible. It's going to happen. There will be hardships that come into your life, but do you have the relationship and the knowledge and the relationship of God, the connection with the God that loves you, that created the world, Jesus who died on the cross for you and wants to know you and wants you to follow him? Do you have the depth? Do your roots go deep enough to be able to make it past those hardships? Do you? Because we often will say yes. But I've seen it in my own life at times where I've had to wrestle with this, and I've seen it in friends' lives where people don't make it. They don't. I have family members that I came to this church with, that I was in a youth group with. We were seeking God with everything in our hearts. And now those people are nowhere near Jesus. They've deconstructed their faith. It's gone. It breaks my heart. And statistically, unfortunately, I think that if you're here and you say you follow Jesus, you'd say, Jeff, that would never be me. But statistically, I can tell you this. There's people in this room who are statistically on a path to not follow Jesus. And it breaks my heart. And I will do everything I can with every last breath in my lungs to help you to figure out that that's not the way to live your life. That following Jesus is the most worthwhile thing you can do. It's the best decision you can ever make. And not just the best decision, but it's the best commitment, lifelong, trajectory-changing, everything in your life-changing thing you can do. It will bring value to your life beyond just the positive fun times, but through the difficulty. It's actually the thing that will sustain you through that and give you what it takes to make it through hardship. Because you can't do life on your own. You can't. You need Jesus. We all need Jesus. So let's look at the next one. The thorny ground. What is that? The thorny ground is this. It represents people that follow Jesus, but there are things in our life that take our attention away from our faith. You know anyone like that? Is that potentially you? So what are we talking about? What do you mean? Like distractions, right? Things that will distract us from Jesus, because we all want to follow Jesus, but then things come into our life. Things that we can't really see coming, and we're like, oh, like, I'm sure it won't be an issue, but like, maybe you're following Jesus, and then that new boyfriend or girlfriend comes into your life, and they're really hot. Like, you would do anything to be with that person. Or like, it's just next level, right? But they don't share your faith. In fact, they're totally against it. Do you make a concession to what you believe in to be with someone else? Because that would mean you'd be happy, right? You would be happy. And life so often in the world and the culture we live in will say that all that matters is that I'm happy. I live my truth, I live my life, and that I'm happy. But if we believe and if we know that Jesus and following him is everything we could ever need and is what's going to bring us the most joy in every element of our life, even if it's not the sexiest, most exciting thing in the moment, we need to know that everything else will lead us to emptiness. What concessions are you willing to make to your faith to be momentarily or seasonally happy that will make you in the long run feel fruitless and empty? Maybe it's not just a relationship. Maybe it's not about sex. Maybe it's about, seeking success and money. You just get so busy seeking after that college degree, seeking after a job, seeking after that BMW you want, the Lamborghini, the house, the retirement that you want to have, the timeshare. I don't know. What do people want? Name it. Everyone has a different idea of what success would be. But is that something that could get in the way of you following Jesus? And again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to save up for a nice car. You should probably save up for retirement. You should be financially responsible. And that's totally fine. I'm not saying that you need to sell everything and go live like a hermit on the beach somewhere. That's not what Jesus is calling us to. But what are the things, what are the concessions, what are the things that become more important, that become idols in our lives, or that could potentially become idols in your life, or that are currently taking up the space in your heart that needs to be reserved for Jesus? Think about it. It might be obvious. You might have to think about it over the next little while. But what are the things that are the distractions? What is the things that make the ground that the gospel is trying to seep into in your heart, the soil? What are the thorns in your life? Do an audit of that. What is keeping you from knowing Jesus more and taking your time away from him? The last type of soil is this. It was good soil, fertile soil. And we see out of this, there's productivity, right? It's good. There's a bunch of exponential growth of whatever was planted in this soil. And what this is pretty simple. I think we could probably figure it out by now, is that this soil was just people that are open to the gospel, people that let Jesus sink into their hearts, that wrestle with the hard parts of following Jesus. Because here's the problem. We can come up here and just say okay, who wants to follow Jesus? He loves you. Just put up your hand and it's all good. You put up your hand, yeah, I want that. But we don't talk about how difficult this can be at times. We don't talk about the cost. We don't talk about the challenges. And we need to be able to do that. Or maybe we followed Jesus when we were younger, but we didn't fully contemplate what that means for our lives, and then, or how it reconciles with our worldview or our lived experience or those types of things. And then as soon as we're challenged, we go to college and somebody tells us that we're dumb for believing what we believe, or that you're some sort of crazy. They look at you like you're a flat earther because you believe that a God could have created the universe. And that becomes something through peer pressure, a form of peer pressure that we can't reconcile, and we just start to break down. And as I mentioned, the term kind of deconstruct our faith to the point where nothing's left. So I want to ask you, have you made your faith your own? Have you wrestled with what this means for you? Is this just something that you grew up with because your parents told you it was good, or grandma and grandpa went to church, or you watched some videos about like animated vegetables and only people who grew up in church would reference that? If you've never been to church before, you're like, what is he talking about? Cartoon veggies? It's weird. Look it up, Veggie Tales. Google that later. That why? Is that it? Because I can tell you right now that's not enough. No one can live your relationship with Jesus for you. You have to make it your own. And I'm not encouraging you to choose not to. I'm here to tell you, it is the best decision you can ever make. I've lived that in my life. It hasn't always been easy, but it is the best decision I've ever made, because through every hardship, through every loved one getting desperately ill, within an inch of their life, with every job that fell apart, with every relationship that broke down, I'm telling you, it was only that I could say that Jesus is with me and Jesus is enough. And that's what will make it through life, because I'm telling you, it's going to get harder. Maybe you're like, man, Jeff, listen, it's been hard. How can it get harder? It probably will. And I can't promise you this God that is going to make life perfect, but I can promise you a God who, through my own experience I've learned, has been enough to make it through anything that the world would throw at me, anything that life would have at me. And that's available to you too. We choose what type of soil our hearts are. I used to read this and I think like it's a statement of judgment of people, right? Like it's like this idea that, oh, these are cynical people, these bad people, mean people, people that are closed-minded, they're the hard soil or they're the thorny ground. But what I'm learning more and more as I live longer and I have more experience with Jesus is that seasonally and occasionally my heart changes what type of soil it is. But I get to decide what I am. I get to choose if I want to be good soil. And that's a posture of my heart. If I'm cynical, if I let the hard things, if I let the scandals in the news, if I let a past experience, church hurt, maybe you experienced something at a church or a youth group and it hurt you. I'm sorry that happened. It might not have been right. In fact, it probably wasn't right. But that doesn't represent what Jesus has for you. People don't represent sometimes the best that Jesus has in the church. We do our best. That's what church is. We're imperfect people trying to carry out the will of God and to be a part of his mission. And sometimes that isn't perfect, and that sucks. But we get to decide if our situations and our circumstances and our past experience are going to be what define what we let God do in our life. And we have to choose sometimes. Just like we do with all sorts of areas, forgiving family members or friends, we have to choose to posture ourselves in a way that we allow the best for our life to happen. Is your heart cold, hard soil because you've been blocking out what God has for you because of things that have happened, because it's like a self-preservation mechanism that we don't want to let anything else in because we don't want to get hurt again? Or we want to be safe. Is it easier to just kind of go with the flow and let the distractions go? Is it easier to just deconstruct our lives? You can only answer that. So quickly, before the band plays and we lead through a couple more songs and have a little bit of time of reflection here, I want to ask you these 4 things. I want to give you these 4 things you can do to help to strengthen and make the soil of your heart receptive, softer, and fertile. Number 1 is this. You have to make the decision that this is worth going after. You have to wrestle with your faith. Make it your own, like I said. Know who Jesus is. Read the Bible. Join a small group. We have Connecting Point coming up. Learn more about who he is and what that means for you. This is your faith. This is your relationship with Jesus. You need to wrestle with that. Wrestle with the hard questions. This fall, we're doing a series going through the hard questions of what is the church? What is Jesus? Who is he? What is the Bible? How can we trust it? Encourage you to invite a friend. Be here for that. But wrestle with those hard issues. We are going to hit it head on, and we want you to do that too in your own time. Read the Bible, learn that. Number 2 is this: if you've been hurt in church before, let go. Even if someone hurt you, even if an institution hurt you, leadership hurt you, don't forget it. It doesn't make it okay, but in order to move past any hurt, you have to be able to forgive people, to let go of that, to not just have it be something you cling to. Doesn't mean that you go back to that place or go under that former leadership or whatever it is, but it means that that thing doesn't have power, that circumstance, that situation doesn't hold you down anymore. And that's something that only you can work through in your heart and with Jesus. The third is this: you need to prioritize Jesus over distractions. Do an audit of your life, like I said earlier. What are the things that you're currently doing in your life that are not allowing you to be close to Jesus anymore? That are keeping you further away, that are not just deconstructing your faith, but destroying it. What are those things? Number 4 is this: you need to be vulnerable. And that's so hard. It's hard to be vulnerable because we associate vulnerability with weakness. But until you're willing to go in front of Jesus and say, I'm vulnerable, it's okay, this is who I am, I'm open. Tell me what's wrong in my life. Tell me what I need to change to be happy, to be fulfilled, to follow you fully. What do I need to do? But if we put on a brave face and pretend and lie to ourselves and lie to God and lie to everyone that we're okay and that we're not in a state where we have questions or things are hard, we're never going to get close to where we need to be. So be vulnerable. You don't have to be brave all the time. You're not weak if you're vulnerable. I've had so many friends and family members that I've seen in these seats, and they're so far from Jesus, and it breaks my heart. And I think back to like 10 years ago when they were 20 in their young adult years, and if I could go back in time and talk to them and just look them in the face and say, Jesus is enough. Jesus is enough. And don't stop. Don't quit. Don't quit. Because you're not going to find the fulfillment in the things that you fill your life with. You're going to just constantly be trying to fill this void that is meant for Jesus. And it breaks my heart, guys, to see it. So I think now that I stand in front of you at that same stage, and this is my chance. Jesus has so much planned for you. Jesus will carry you through the hardship you're going through today, tomorrow, for the rest of your life. He will be the most valuable decision. Following him is the best decision you can ever make. And I know I have to say that because I'm a pastor, but I'm telling you it's the truth. And I'm pleading with you that this is worth seeking. This is worth looking at. Deconstruction of your faith, it's good to break it down. But when it becomes a demolition derby of your faith, that's not good. Because at the end of the day, the more we wrestle with who God is, the more we wrestle with where he fits into our worldview, into science, into the world, we should be brought closer to Jesus. So wrestle with your faith. Seek Jesus. And maybe it's your first time here and you're like, man, this guy sure is worked up. We can always choose what we go into each situation with. And maybe you are here for the first time and you're like, man, I've been seeking Jesus. I've actually had that hard soil in my heart for a long time, and I want to know this for the first time. This is for you as well, because it doesn't matter if you're at the first day of your relationship with Jesus, or you've been doing it forever, or you've been gone for a long time and now you're back. We all get to decide if we're open to it or not. So on the screen, on the screens in here or online, there's going to be a number you can message. If you want to reconnect with Jesus, you've been running for a long time, or whether you want to start your relationship with Jesus for the first time, or you just want more information about what this Jesus-based life looks like, message that. We'd like to chat with you. We're not going to harass you. We're not going to phone you at all hours of the night when you're eating dinner with your family or or something like that. We just want to get some information in your hand, a digital booklet, or just connect with you. If you want to talk to a pastor, we can totally do that. Or if you want to have more information about just even how to accept Jesus and follow him for the first time, we would love to celebrate with you. So message that. I love you guys all too much to not tell you this. Jesus is enough. So the band is going to come up and they're going to play some songs, and this would be my encouragement for you. Wrestle with your faith. I don't have all the answers for your circumstances right now, but whatever you're wrestling with, seek Jesus. His Holy Spirit will speak to you, will talk to you. Talk to a pastor. Like I said, there are ways to wrestle with this to get more information. But don't just keep passively going through your relationship with God in a way that won't be sustainable down the road. This is way too important to just leave to chance or to live flippantly. You can stand if you're able to.
It's not a love I have to earn. You don't leave me he doesn't. 'Cause you don't leave me where you found me. You pull me up out of the mess, and you don't leave me broken hearted. You never break your promises. Oh, you keep giving second chances, far above what I deserve. And you keep telling me I'm worth it. Not a love I have to earn. I'll never know love like this, so beautiful. I'll never get used to this. My heart is yours. Of this I am convinced. From now until the end, I'll never know love like this. So beautiful, so beautiful. Oh, you're so beautiful, Jesus. You're so beautiful, Jesus. You're so beautiful. I'll never know love like so beautiful. I'll never get used to this. My heart is yours. Of this I am convinced. From now until the end, I'll never know love like this. So beautiful.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Oh, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your son for redemption, the price for my heart. I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into come back to you every time, again and again. Oh, Jesus. God, I just thank you that you're near right now. Thank you that I can just visualize you right in front of me and it's actually true, God. That your presence is here. We hear the word presence so much in church sometimes, but it's really simple. It just means you're here. And we can expect all the privileges that come along with you being here with us, God with us, Emmanuel. So just thank you so much for that, Jesus. I don't want to talk about you like you're not in this room with us, God, that you're not right beside us. So just thank you so much, Jesus. Just be with us as we go throughout our weeks, and we just thank you for your presence in our lives. Amen. Thanks, you guys. You can all have a seat.
Thanks for being here. It was great to spend the last hour and a bit together, which was awesome. So before you guys go, I want to remind you of a couple last things, so hang on before pizza comes. But just a reminder that if you have questions about small groups, joining a serve team, or just want to get connected, really any questions you have, come chat with Haya. She's going to be out at the Connect booth right there. She'd love to meet you, okay? So go there after the service. Also a reminder about baptism. I realized before I didn't even explain what baptism is, in case you're completely unaware. So baptism in a very simple form is that once you choose to follow Jesus, baptism is that public declaration to say in front of your friends, your family, your church, saying, hey, I've decided to follow Jesus, and you get baptized. That is part of it, and we're going to talk more about that in the class. So if you're thinking about it, if you have hesitations about it, or just questions, or you want to get baptized, like I said, come to the class on Wednesday over Zoom. We're going to put it on Instagram. You'll see it. Or next Sunday after the service. So you want to be there.
So as most of you guys know, the project is a part of a larger church called Hope City Church. And every year we do the Back to School Bash. And so what this event is for families who need a bit of a extra bit of help for the coming school year to actually have it start off to a great start. And so these families will get to enjoy some carnival games, some school supplies, they'll get some free haircuts, car wash, as well as some apparel. But the thing is, the project also helps out with this as well. So our job as the project is to help out with the car wash. And so what we need you guys to do is to make some teams, whether that be your small group, friends, some friends that don't even come to the project, and sign up. So you guys can sign up after the service today, right at the connecting booth.
It's a lot of fun. Like, you can't, like, it's a car wash, so you're going to get wet. It's like, don't wear white shirts. I feel like that's...
Yeah, white shirts are not good.
I feel like you don't have to say that, but still, I'm going to say that.
that.
Anyways, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, so you guys should come. It's a really great time. You get to, like, serve people, which is awesome. All right, last reminder. Like we were saying before, we're kicking off our Kingsway campus. Like, we've been here at Millwoods as a project for almost 20 years. So we're going to start a second campus that's right across from Nate. It's, like, down the street from Grant McEwen. It's really, really exciting. It's brand new for us, and tonight is an interest meeting where you can come see, okay, what's it going to look like? What's it going to mean? Is it going to be the same, different? We're going to answer all these questions, and we want you guys to be there with us. We obviously can't and don't want to do this without you guys, so if you want to come answer some questions, just get more information, come to the interest meeting, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, no, I want pizza first. Okay, well, I snagged pizza exclusively. I took like 3 boxes, and they gave like cheesy bread, but there's not enough for all of you, so I took the cheesy bread also. So if you're at the interest meeting, I mean, if you love Jesus, you should come, but also there's pizza and cheesy bread. So that will be, we also told you the wrong room. We're really killing it tonight. We said room 1030, just keep walking.
Yeah.
To the fireside room.
So we're bribing you and we're tricking you.
We're bribing you and we're tricking you. It's a great night. So come to that. We'll be there, and it won't be very long. Don't worry. So we'll see you guys there. And I think that's it, right? I hope so.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a lot of things.
Afterwards, don't leave. Make sure you grab some pizza on the way out. If you want to stay longer, there are some games and stuff in the cafe.
Yeah.
Other than that, you guys have a great night.
See you guys. Have a good night.